objects.
Really?
I've got a green
put it up against
That's
another.
if.
And then,
Yeah,
were in
I
school,
remember.
It was,
It's not even the shape.
Negative.
Mentally ill. Mentally
Did
insane.
a special effects agency. Welcome back to the Ethan Clerc podcast show. We are here tonight wearing our serial killer slasher masks here from different horror movies.
yes.
I am Jason Voorhees. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Michael Myers.
And Colin was the guy from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know his official. I'm gonna take this.
Yeah, I don't really know, but
I can't remember the guy's name in the movie, but good to be back here tonight, episode 88 of the podcast, and we're just keeping the Halloween October traditions going. I am wearing a sling because I broke my collarbone, unfortunately, and it's a really dumb story. I don't think we need to tell on here.
Why not, though?
It's really dumb. I was bet to jump over a garbage can, and I did, and there was no lid on the garbage can, so my arms went right in the middle, and I flipped over the top of it. There may have been some alcohol involved.
may have been.
Bad ideas, but you know, you live, you learn. That's the way I look at it. Could have been a lot worse. Jamin was there to experience it. Colin was there to experience it.
You cleared that thing.
Yeah.
Cleared it.
I mean, I took it with me, but and I broke my collarbone, but something happened from it. It was not the best experience ever. But hey, I went on with the whole night.
Heck yeah,
You know, I went
people at the bar sitting there trying to put it back in place, not even knowing it's broken.
Yeah, we thought my shoulder was out of place. That's never good. So everyone's pushing on it. And then I
Crazy night.
couldn't move my arm when I woke up the next morning. So I'm like, I need to go to the ER. And then I just went back to the doctor today, and he said it's not broken in half, which is good.
Good.
Like, it's not completely snapped. It just cracked. And so I need to take it easy here. So drink a couple beers, numb the pain.
That's pretty crazy because the way that X-rays showed, it didn't look good at all.
No.
It was completely like chipped off. I don't
Yeah,
even know.
I mean, it doesn't look horrible, but it doesn't look good either. So here, cheers to being alive. Cheers to being alive.
Cheers
Colin's
to
got the
living.
water over there. Back on the podcast, though, this week we have Jamin Leduc. Great to have you, Jamin. You were on last week. The fans loved you, so we're bringing you back. Any words to say to the fans out there for you?
Hi, Mom.
Great to have you, though, Jamin. Last week we talked about our trip to St. Louis. We talked about running from the cops. We talked about homelessness. We talked about being in the bad neighborhoods. People love the stories from all
Just
that.
talked about St. Louis in general.
Yep.
And people love hearing about, you know, whenever you're in a bad situation, people love hearing about that. So running from the cops, people love that story. I just posted the segment on Facebook today, and people were loving that. So fun stories to tell. Luckily, no one got arrested in the end. There's always a better thing. There's always it's all about perspective, right? You look at things, and it could have been a lot worse. Like my arm. Or we could have got arrested. So things could be a lot worse, no matter what position you're in.
That's funny. I was thinking about that today while fishing. I'm not even kidding. I was sitting there, didn't catch much to anything, and been fishing for 6 hours. It's like, well, at least it's beautiful out. Like, this is just the perfect day. And who cares?
Nice to be outside.
Look at the bright side.
Yeah. And we have a bright side for the people listening. We are giving away something here.
Oh.
T-Win speaker giveaway. Let me show a picture here of what we're giving away this week. We are giving away an unreleased T-Win item. It is the T-Win Drake Prayer Hand collab. Jamin's loving this item.
I like it. I love it.
It's a limited edition. This is unreleased. This is going to be out in the fall T-Win drop, which hasn't even came out yet. And we're giving this away. And you're probably wondering, how do I win this beautiful item?
How do I win it?
So here's how you win. So you need to either review the podcast on iTunes, and if you have not done that yet, and make sure you don't just leave a star review, that you actually write something. And we're not asking it has to be a 5-star, it could be whatever. You know, we just want to review.
Just be honest.
Be honest, yeah. And if you've already done that, because we've done giveaways before with the review on iTunes, if you've already done that, leave us a review on Facebook. You can do that as well. And then make sure you like us on Facebook. And if you have Instagram as well, follow us on Instagram. Do those things. We'll put your name in a drawing. And in either next week or a couple of weeks from now, we'll do a drawing. One person's going to walk away with a brand new, unreleased T-Win speaker. And it's a smaller speaker. I mean, it's not huge, but it's probably the size of this notebook. But It's actually pretty loud. So,
Really?
and it's just a sweet. I mean, I like the prayer hand.
It's a sweet design.
It's just a classic.
It's a good
If you're
design.
into hip hop, if you like Drake, it's got the if you're reading this is too late like font on there for T-Win. T-Win, for people that don't know, is our clothing brand that we have. So get out there, leave us a review. Tell us what you like about the podcast, and like any other week, subscribe, like, review, comment. Tell us any suggestions you've had or you have for wanting to get people on there. We're always looking for things. We're always looking for people, topics, anything. So anyone out there, if you got anything, let us know. And otherwise, go ahead and give us a review, and maybe you could win yourself a free T1 speaker. That's a big giveaway this week.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we haven't done a giveaway in a while, so I thought it was time. This week on the podcast, though, we started off wearing these famous, I don't even know what you want to call them, like iconic. They're all like iconic
Halloween masks.
Iconic Halloween film or horror film masks. So everyone might be wondering, what are we talking about tonight? Well, we're going to talk about the real killers and the real stories behind your favorite horror/Halloween movies. So everyone, not every movie, but a lot of the horror Halloween movies have a real backstory to them. And I don't know if you said it, Jamin, but last week, did you say your favorite Halloween movie was Jeepers Creepers?
Yes.
What do you like about that movie?
The whole part of like the corn and everything, and just it's
How he looks like a scarecrow almost?
Yeah, it's freaky. I don't know.
You like that location.
I think so. Put me out in Iowa in a corn maze.
It kind of does
Dude,
feel...
it's that creepy small town vibe. Well, not even small town because they're like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Isn't there like a gas station or something? Like super run down they go to, and there's
Well, the whole movie kind of revolves around like a creepy small town. And the real story, you might be wondering, how could Jeepers Creepers? Because for people that don't know, it's based off like this demon creature flying thing. How in the hell could this be based on a true story? Well, you guys are about to be blown away because I have this, out of all the examples I have tonight, the Jeepers Creepers one is like the most like real life movie, like back and forth, like you can find.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Like that's probably the other aspect why I like it a lot is it's not cheesy. You know, it's very like real setting and like it's
real. Relatable for us because we all grew up in like small town Minnesota, and the movie
with cornfields all around.
The real life thing takes place in Michigan, and so it's very similar, to Minnesota. I think it was Michigan. Michigan, and so I think it's relatable for us because cornfields and like back roads, and that's what the kind of the whole thing about the movie is. The brother and sister on this like road trip or whatever, and they run into this guy and this creature thing. And, it's relatable for us because I think we all have these myth or like urban legends in small towns. Everyone has that thing. I don't know if you have anything in your town, but around Wyndham, we have a couple, like Colin brought it up. I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, like the Mountain Lake Mountain, where if you drive around it backwards
three times, you see a skeleton hanging from the trees or whatever.
Yep. And when we were on that road trip, we ran into people and they were telling us like urban legends about like if you drive down this road, you go under 13 bridges, and underneath the 14th bridge, there's a guy hanging there, or whatever. Like every small town or like town in the Midwest seems to have like an urban legend around it. And not even Midwest, like everywhere around the U.S.,
That is pretty accurate.
And like Bigfoot and like the Chupacabra, like there's all these like urban legends. And I feel like that's how we're going to get into more of them later.
Monster.
Yep. That's more, I think that's like in another country. Isn't the Loch Ness Monster in another country?
Yeah, but then there was also
yeah.
one in like Lake Michigan or whatever that this girl was like, she lived right on like I think it was Lake Michigan. Don't quote me on that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the Great Lakes, and she just saw like a big dragon's like figure across the water, like eel-like.
Really?
And it was huge, and she literally was so terrified she like slept under her bed. Like she hid under her bed and like was freaked out.
As if that's gonna help a lake creature.
Yeah,
man, that was literally, it was like, how true is it? I don't know, but
that's the thing. How true are any of these?
Yeah.
But we do have, for the Jeepers Creepers one, we do have the real life example of like what really happened. This is a backable. Police got involved. A guy got arrested. So what I'm going to show you first here is the picture of the guy. This is the bad guy in real life, and this is the guy from the movie. Obviously, we're dealing with like a demon creature.
He's got those creepy, saggy eyes, what do they call those? Below your eyes.
Oh, like a bag below your eye?
Yeah.
He's got the big bags below his eyes. I don't know. I mean, people always do like the side by side. Obviously, you can't base like a fictional demon character after a real person, but I can kind of see the similarities. But here's the weird thing about this. As we talk about it, we're going to figure out that the guy, the director, writer, Victor Salva, never gave credit to this story, which happened in 1990 is when the actual incident happened. The movie came out in 2001. He never gives credit to this real life event. He credits Steven Spielberg's movie Duel as giving him inspiration, but he never credits this actual true thing. And people claim, and I'm about to show you something, and it's going to be like, you're going to be like, there's no way he did not get inspiration from this thing that happened, because it's exactly the exact same. One other thing I need to bring up, there's 3 Jeepers Creepers movies. There's one that just came out like 2 years ago.
Really?
And then the one with the boys on the school bus, that one's number 2, and number 1's the original.
Just seen 2 of them.
Yeah.
The first 2.
Yep. And the writer...
Guess we know what we're doing tonight.
The writer and director, Victor Salva, is actually a pedophile. He raped a 12-year-old boy in 1988. And he actually got put in prison for 3 years, but he only served 15 months. So this is not something that is like up for argue. This actually happened, and he was still able to make multiple movies. I think he's done like 10 movies or something. He's done a lot. It's just a side note. So we're dealing with a guy who's already like, you can't trust him. He's a horrible person, but he made, some decent movies. I love Jeepers Creepers. He's a bad guy. I don't want to ruin it for you.
You just did. I don't like Jeepers Creepers anymore.
It's a horrible thing. It is a bad thing. But it's just like all the thing about like Kevin Spacey. He did horrible things, but he's still a good actor. You know what I mean? Like Kevin Spacey's a horrible person, but he was able to do good things. So I don't know. It's one of those things. How the hell could a guy who was convicted in 1988 go on and have a career making movies?
Why do you only get 15 months?
That's what I'm wondering.
Fuck?
Yeah, I hate pedophiles. Like these people to me are equivalent to murderers. Like people that sexually touch kids.
They are.
Yeah, horrible people. I don't want to get off on a tangent. I feel like I needed to bring that up because it's something that people talk about when they bring up Jeepers Creepers like every single time. Here is though the thing I put together. I didn't find this initially. Somebody else did. I chopped up their video to make it shorter. And what we're going to look at here is Jeepers Creepers, which came out in 2001, versus an episode of Unsolved Mysteries in 1991, I believe is when the Unsolved... You remember that TV show, Unsolved Mysteries? Mm-hmm. Really good, like really classic here. So we're going to watch this. Just check this out. Dennis DePue is the guy. And the episode is from March 20th, 1991.
Easter Sunday,
Turn it up a little bit.
A lonely road 12 miles outside of Coldwater, Michigan. Ray and Marie Thornton set off on a leisurely drive in the country as they did every weekend. But in just a matter of minutes, the routine Sunday outing would place this ordinary, law-abiding couple at the center of a strange and ominous mystery.
We were driving south on Snow Prairie Road, and all of a sudden a van was just on us and passed. Look at this guy coming around us, honey. Sure is in a hurry. There he goes.
Okay, now I'm cutting to Jeepers Creepers, which comes out in 2001.
Lied for both of us. Turns out you're a twin. Jesus.
I love the horn on that thing.
One of the things we do when we're out driving around is we make names out of license plates. And Marie came up with the G's. He's really in a hurry because the first 2 letters of his license plate were GZ. And it was just spontaneous, really no thought behind it.
Now look what they're doing.
Gay fever. No, gay forever.
They're coming up with names from the license plates, which is just what they were talking about in the show.
Little bros.
That's a 6, not a G, idiot.
No, it gets crazier.
Sexy forever. That's mine. That's 5 to 2.
Okay, go back to
Several
full
miles
screen.
down the road, the Thorntons came across the man and the van a second time.
As we approached an old schoolhouse, I saw a man behind it, and he had what appeared to be a bloody sheet.
Man, that's a bloody sheet. Where? He's behind the building, right?
As we continued passing the school, I saw the van parked between the building and a big tank.
Now here's from the movie.
What's he doing?
Throwing the bodies down the sewer or the pipe. Isn't that nuts?
That is weird.
And then
It's so weird.
cuts back to the show. Look at him, he's watching them. That's so creepy.
What the hell was he doing?
Dump something down that pipe.
There's the van that passed
Back to the show.
Where?
It's right there.
There was the one that passed us?
Yes, I'm sure it was. It was the van that passed us.
Now they leave.
Minutes later, the van pulled up behind them again and rode their bumper for nearly 2 miles.
Chasing them. Now the show, or back to the movie. Same exact thing happens.
Oh, you got
Big
me.
van's coming with the creeper in it. And he comes chasing after.
He's coming up right on our ass.
And then it's going to cut back here one more time.
The Thorntons feared that something unspeakable had happened. They returned to the schoolyard to search for the sheet.
And they go back to the back.
Tried to find what this white thing was that he had been carrying.
Look, look.
I see it. That's probably it.
What is it?
It's a bloody sheet.
Partially stuffed into a small animal hole was a blood-soaked blanket.
So you cannot tell me that is not the exact story that Victor Salva took. And obviously the rest of the movie goes on, but
What year was this? The Unsolved Mystery? again?
1991.
That's
And the movie came out
In
10 years later.
2001,
Yep,
right?
2001.
2001.
Oh my god.
Could it be a
That is-
coincidence?
No.
It
No, it's too close.
could. Isn't
For me,
it?
You can't convince me that that's not a coincidence.
No,
My
that
opinion.
it is a coincidence 100% because the license plate thing. When they're making names out of the license
Yeah.
plate and then he uses that in the movie,
Yep.
the shots are almost identical too.
They
when they're
are.
driving by and he's in the wooded area behind, and in the movie he's behind an abandoned church. In the TV show, he's behind an abandoned school. So it's like everything is copied from that.
You know, maybe he just saw that and was like, "Oh, that's really good," and put it in the movie.
Yep.
I'll negotiate on that coincidence, but
Yep.
I feel like he really got some inspiration from
Oh,
all that.
100%. And the fact, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like from everything we're going to talk about tonight, everyone is inspired by something. You know, we always see something, we always hear about something, and then you come up with an idea for a movie or whatever. That's where you come up with your next idea. The thing is, he never came forward and credited it with that he saw that show. And maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. We'll never know. We'll never know if the
Hey,
pedophile.
what ends up happening in that Unsolved Mysteries episode?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because that guy, Dennis Depew, I'll go back to that. The guy here on the left, he actually had killed his wife and brought her and dumped the body, and then he dumped the sheet behind the church or whatever, or dumped the body back there. I'm not 100% sure because in the TV show they made it seem like he just found a bloody sheet.
He killed his wife.
He killed his wife because she was going to divorce him. So he drove out there, and this is on a Michigan road. And so this actually happened in real life. After the episode of Unsolved Mysteries came out, they actually caught the guy, convicted him, and I don't know if he's alive now
So
or if he
this
got.
was in Michigan, and Jeepers Creepers was filmed in Michigan, right?
I'm not sure where they filmed it or if it's set in Michigan. I have to watch the movie again. It's one of my favorite horror thriller, and to be honest with you, I think it's hilarious because there's a couple scenes in that movie where he runs and jumps over the car and everything, some outrageous scenes, and I think it's a really well-made movie. It's definitely one of my favorite movies, and I think the first time I ever saw it was actually on TV for the ABC 30 Nights of Halloween or whatever. 31 Nights of Halloween. I think I remember seeing it on there. So I had to make sure it was on our Halloween list. So that was a good one to start off with. It's going to be one of the ones where it's undeniable that that's where he got the credit from, or that's where he got the inspiration from to do it.
That's pretty eerie.
Isn't it? It's creepy. Everything, life imitates art. Art imitates life. It's a big thing that goes back and forth. Next one we're going to look at, we got Michael Myers, we got The Mask, you got The Mask, Halloween. So this one you can actually go and you can actually figure out that John Carpenter got the inspiration from when he was going to college at Western Kentucky University. He visited a mental asylum as part of his psychology class. And in that visit, he saw a 12 or 13-year-old boy who had, he tried to describe it, and he actually put the way that he described it into the movie. These are the words which, what's his name? Donald Pleasance in the movie character, Dr. Sam Loomis says, and this is the way that the director, John Carpenter, described when he saw this boy. This blank, pale, emotionless face, blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. So John Carpenter was asked to do a movie with the typical 1960s urban legend, The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. Have you heard that before?
I have not.
So it's the inspiration behind a ton of horror movies, but the basic, I think it was actually in, what's the movie that just came out? Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark or whatever. Remember that book when we were kids? Remember that book?
Yeah.
I can pull up a picture of it. I feel like everyone read that book. You know what I'm talking about, Colin, don't you?
I think so. I'm not.
I think, isn't it called Scary Movies to Tell in the Dark?
Scary Stories.
Or Scary Stories, and not Scary Movies. There was a book, though. These books right here.
I was going to say, I remember
that cover looks familiar.
Book cover.
Yep, these ones right here.
Yes.
Oh, yep,
yes.
okay.
Yeah. Right
so
there.
in the book, I'm pretty sure there is a babysitter and the man upstairs story, which is pretty much you have your babysitter. She's watching the house for a family.
Kids go to bed.
She gets a phone call at the house. She keeps getting phone calls, and it's either like deep breathing or something about, have you checked on the kids lately? And then she calls the police, and the cops say, if he calls again, we'll track the call. So he calls again, more deep breathing. And then she calls the police, help! And then they say, ma'am, the phone call is coming from upstairs in your house. So then she leaves the house. The cops show up. They figure out that the kids have all been killed by this guy. And so that's a whole urban legend from the 1960s. They approach John Carpenter. They tell him that they want to do a movie based on that premise, kind of the guy goes after these kids on Halloween, these teenagers, whatever. John Carpenter remembers visiting that insane asylum for his college class. And that's where he gets the idea for Michael Myers, from seeing that kid. So that quote that's in the movie are his words to describe seeing that kid that had like black eyes, like devil eyes.
That's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. And there's more to it. And John Carpenter doesn't really admit the rest, but there is a guy that people think that John Carpenter based the Michael Myers adult version of this kid. Because if you've ever watched Halloween, it's based on this kid, this young demented kid or whatever. And then he grows up and becomes a horrible killer. Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer, have a picture of him here. You could tell me if you think he looks anything like the Michael Myers. This guy was 6'9", giant man, huge guy.
Michael Myers is huge, isn't he?
Yep, and the movie's a large, especially if you watch the remake, like the 2007 Rob Zombie remake.
Uh-huh.
You know, Rob Zombie's always over the top, and so he makes Michael Myers like huge. And so you really get the comparison with Ed Kemper. Like I said, called the co-ed killer. He killed his grandmother at the age of 16 when his grandpa showed up at the house. He shot him because he didn't want him to see his grandma dead. He turned himself in after he called his mom. And then he was released in 1969 and killed 10 co-ed younger girls, whatever, like younger people, kidnapped them, cut their bodies up. He he did horrible stuff.
Haven't we talked about him on the podcast?
I think we have talked about him. We did an episode last year around Halloween time where we talked about serial killers and everything. Mm-hmm. And I think he was one of the people we talked about. Just a horrible person. And that is where people think that part of the Michael Myers story came from. You know, and you got to almost think when you're coming up with these horror movies or whatever,
You got to try to make them as realistic as possible. So
yeah, you do. But then you also figure out like where do these guys, are these movie directors, are they messed up? Are they thinking about this stuff in their head? Or are there things in real life that are actually, is reality scarier than fiction? You got to think about that, Are there just really messed up people? Obviously, there's really messed up people. We're looking at them right now. But that's where they're getting the ideas for all these horrible movies. You know what I mean? People watch these movies and it's like they don't want to think about... they think that it's all fake. Like your mom tells you they're just movies. They're not real. Mm-hmm. But then you look at real life and it's almost worse than the movie. When Ed Kemper like cut his mom's tongue out and like... Yeah, like horrible stuff, dude. Horrible stuff. I mean, we're really just scratching the surface on. I'll put a link in the bio to our.
All right, let's lighten the mood real quick. Didn't Scary Movies do a remake of that baby scene?
Baby scene?
The baby's upstairs or whatever, and
the babysitter.
The baby. Well, I think it was even the. Yeah, it was the babysitter, and then she kept getting calls, whatever.
I think so. I haven't seen Scary Movie in a long time.
What's that? Or no,
like 8 of them. So
what's that movie? What's that movie? The Call about?
You're thinking of the Perfect.
Saw it a long time ago.
Isn't The Perfect Stranger about that or something? There's. I'll tell you what. Right now, there are a ton of horror movies that use a basic formula, and there's a ton of them. There's so many of them. The Babysitter and the Killer, or the Babysitter. What did I just say? The Babysitter and the Stranger. What did I call it? The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. I kind of want to find something quick. It's called like they're 4 horror movies follow one of these different formulas, and there's like 4 of them. Let me see if I can find this quick. While Jamin's looking up, what are you trying to find, Jamin?
That Scary Movie scene.
Horror movies follow this form. I gotta type with one hand here.
Yeah, Ethan's becoming a professional left-hand typer.
Yup. So yeah, movie formulas. There's a bunch of them. Horror's perfect formula. I don't know if this is gonna be the thing that I'm thinking of. The mathematical model. Well, I didn't think we'd get math involved in here. Suspense is one of the most important qualities in a frightening film. So the formula looks at whether, quit moving. The thing keeps moving here. Taking blood and guts and subtracted it. I can't even read this thing. It keeps loading different parts here. Either way, I know that there are like certain formulas that horror movies follow, and there's different. Here we go. Maybe the infographic would help. If we could pull this one up. We're on Pinterest here now. And it feels like a lot of movies follow formulas. You can compare a lot of different things. Maybe we're never going to find it here. Either way, Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. That's where inspiration, along with Ed Kemper and the young boy in the insane asylum, is where Halloween came from. Next on the list, we have a classic. And you might be wondering, another one, how the heck does this relate to real life? Nightmare on Elm Street. Mm-hmm. You a fan of this one, Jamin?
That's a good one.
So, do you know the story behind that, pretty much?
Of course I don't. I've never looked up the research on all these. And
No, I'm talking about the story in the movie.
Oh, in the movie?
Yeah. What happens in the movie? For people that don't know.
It's been so long, but like,
okay,
I just remember I've seen it. Honestly.
They get killed in their sleep by Freddy Krueger. He comes alive in their nightmares, and so here we have, for people that don't know,
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Freddy Krueger.
Man, I should remember that from Rick and Morty.
Is that in Rick and Morty?
They did that on a remake. Yeah.
Freddy,
it was like, it's Freddy, bitch.
That's a big one. Freddy Krueger, though, again, like when you talk about horror and you talk about movies, iconic. Like costumes, like Freddy Krueger is definitely up there in like the top 5.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
For sure.
And so for people that don't know, Freddy Krueger is a guy that comes in, like I said, nightmares. He kills people in their sleep. He kills these teenagers in their sleep. Well, the director, Wes Craven, was inspired by LA Times articles. This movie came out in 1984. Now, there were an unbelievable amount of people dying in their sleep around this time. Like,
really?
Actually dying in their sleep. And you can't make this stuff up. It's almost like I said, reality is almost stranger than fiction. Or reality is almost stranger than fiction. Here's one of the articles right here in the New York Times. We have 18 people, Laotians, that died in their sleep. This article is from 1981. And remember, I said Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1984. Now, director Wes Craven directly quotes that he got this idea after reading these different newspaper articles. The 17 men and women were members of a pre-literate Laotian mountain society called the Hmong. I might be slaughtering the pronunciation of that. About 35,000 Hmong are now Hmong. I feel like I know that. I think it's just Hmong. Are now living in the United States. Most of them fled their homeland after it was overrun in 1978 by Pathet Lao. So pretty much these people had horrible nightmares of, from what I got from the LA Times article, was families survived killing fields of Cambodia, made it to the USA. Their young boy still found himself having nightmares and would wake up in the middle of the night screaming. He didn't want to go to bed. He just would not want to fall asleep, which is kind of like the movie. They want to keep themselves up because if they fall asleep, they could get killed. The doctor who was really studying this, his name was Robert Kirshner. He was at the forefront of research. He said, Kirshner theorized that a random electronic discharge, perhaps caused by a nightmare, shorted out and overloaded their systems. This may have led to a sudden death. We don't know much more about the Asian death syndrome today than we did in the 1980s. That's what they call it, the Asian death syndrome, because it was unequivocal. It was affecting Asian people more than any other ethnicity. Yeah, any other race, because these people had faced horrible things in their countries and they came back. They had nightmares, and what they're talking about direct affecting their systems is.
Yeah, what's the X-ray you got on there?
It's overlarge hearts from having. That was one thing they found. The people were completely healthy when they went to bed, but when they did the autopsies, they would find that there was a off. What do they call that? Offbeat heart rate or something. What do they call that when there's the heart rate's not like in the same. They're offbeat or something. I can't think of the word. I can't think of the wording.
Offset, maybe.
It's the heart rate is not as normal. It's not as normal, and so they were
takeoff.
And so here's the quote from Wes Craven of where he kind of got the inspiration. He told his parents he was afraid that if he slept, the thing chasing him would get him. This is about the boy from Cambodia. The thing chasing him would get him. So he tried to stay awake for days at a time. When he finally fell asleep, his parents thought the crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night. By the time they got to him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare. Here was a youngster having a vision of a horror that everyone older was denying. That became the central line of Nightmare on Elm Street. So this sounds almost fake, too. I mean, it sounds crazy that you could die from having a nightmare. But...
And the autopsy just shows the heart,
enlarged.
Yeah.
The heart enlarged and something to do with the heartbeat. Literally, it was like a shock. Kind of like if
they
you
basically had a heart attack.
Heart attack almost, yeah. But it wasn't a heart attack. It was something different. They could almost figure out that, you know, when you like you kind of have a dream, you have a nightmare or dream, and you like crash a car in your nightmare, and you like wake up quick. It's kind of like that, but such an extreme level that it literally like jittered your heart, and you just
they didn't wake up. They
dead. And it happened to the LA Times from 1987 found that it happened to 130 people. Died mysteriously.
130?
Yeah. Died mysteriously in their sleep.
And how was that time frame? Do you know?
I don't know. This says
1971 to 1973.
No,
and then the film came out in 1974.
From 1987 to I'm not sure when. I'm not sure when it would end. Are people still dying today in their sleep? Like that's what? Can you imagine?
I hope not.
You would hear about it more. I feel like maybe this.
I mean, 173 just in the LA area. That's a
130 people.
That's a very large number.
That is a large amount.
Like to die in your sleep.
Yeah.
Just what?
Yeah. It doesn't sound real. Like I said, reality. I have it written on here. Reality is scarier and stranger than fiction. Like you can make this stuff up, but then you look at real things in real life, and it's like, wow, that is pretty weird. That's out there. That's crazy. Like that actually happened. So another one on here. We had Colin had the mask on. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, probably the most gruesome one that we'll look at tonight, because again, the real life example, you know, everyone's seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Everyone knows the story. You know, the guy that, you know, not only killed people, but he used their flesh to make the mask. Colin's got the mask right there. And you could tell there's like stitches in it. The story is that the Texas Chainsaw guy had a skin disease, so he wanted to have like perfect skin. So he cut off people's faces and put them together to make like the perfect mask.
Didn't he continue to kill people trying to find the perfect face?
Yep. Like he'd take their ear and like, I'd like that ear, or I like your nose.
But
like,
he kept killing because he could never find the perfect one.
Mm-hmm. What we have here is a lot of people know this one. Ed Gein. Ed Gein was a son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like a crazy guy. And when I talk about like Texas Chainsaw Massacre being messed up, the real life story is like 10 times worse. This guy wanted to be, people don't know this. This guy wanted to be, apparently he wanted to become a woman. So he cut like their faces off and made a mask and like this, like the hair. And in the movie, that's what the Texas Chainsaw guy does. But Ed Gein went a step further and made an entire bodysuit. Like he cut their breast out. He cut their whole front all the way down.
Sick.
Yeah, and they found all this stuff. Like when there's crime scene photos and stuff. Like
Isn't there a documentary about him?
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of documentaries.
I feel like we watched one.
I don't know if I've seen a documentary on it. It is like messed up. And this happened, Ed Gein. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original movie, you know, they've made so many of them now. The original movie came out in 1974. Ed Gein was killing people from 1954 to 1957. So again, when you look at all these, the real events happened well before the actual movies come out. So there's no denying this. And I'm pretty sure the Texas Chainsaw Massacre people that made the movie will tell you they got the inspiration from Ed Gein. So we're going to go through we have pictures of, we've looked at some of these before, pictures of Ed Gein's house. And if you've ever seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the mother of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy has like a rocking chair. Mm-hmm. That was based off of this too. After Ed Gein's mother died, he kept her room like mint condition, perfect, like pristine. So this is the room. The rest of the house was a disaster, like bodies everywhere, skeletons everywhere, human flesh. But he kept her room like perfect. He actually boarded it off from the rest of the house. Yeah, weird. What? Here's the outside of it here. And I'm pretty sure Plainfield. I thought Ed Gein was a Wisconsin killer. Maybe he's Illinois. Let me check here.
Isn't that crazy? There's a lot of Midwest.
There is
serial killers.
Born in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Butcher of Plainfield. The Plainfield Ghoul. And they're probably talking about Plainfield, Illinois. Is probably what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm thinking.
Plainfield, Wisconsin. Okay, I'm glad we corrected that because we got ripped. Hometown of Plainfield, Wisconsin. And so this is his house, and this all hits home because it's all like small town, rural. Like we could have had a guy like this.
Not that far.
No, we could have had a guy like this in Windham, or in any small town. That's what really hits home. Like there could be a guy doing this messed up stuff. Could these things happen nowadays? Probably not. Like picture the Jeepers Creepers one with cell phones. If someone drove by and saw that, you could take a video and you could get the guy. Yeah. You could live stream it on Facebook. What's this guy doing back here? Like you could have. There's no way anyone's gonna get away with a crime like that.
You could be Facebook live streaming and have the cops come in all at the same time.
Yep. It's like stuff like this will never happen anymore, which is a great thing because it's horrible stuff. But it just will never happen anymore because of modern technology. So we always talk about technology on the podcast. Positives and negatives, Jamin.
Man, that's just wild. What motivates a person to actually act that way, to really try and be a woman?
They're just so messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow.
It starts off, and like we talked about it in the podcast with serial killers, it starts off at childhood. Mm-hmm. Mutilating, roadkill, and like killing their dogs and stuff.
Yep, I've heard about that before. Where just like it starts off with small little things,
mm-hmm.
and even if it starts off with insects and then goes to like animals and then like a pet.
Yep.
Like something like the family loves, but they just kill the pet. Like,
yep. It's what do you call it? The general disrespect for human life or life at all.
Yeah.
They don't have any remorse.
No appreciation
No.
towards life.
Well, no remorse for doing it. Like most people, if you hit something or you kill something accidentally, you feel bad about it.
And that's the thing. They're like how he cares about that room so well.
Mm-hmm.
Like cares so much to board it up and keep it just the way it was. Like,
Yep.
They do have like some sort of like ethical care.
Yep.
It's just like.
Isn't it weird how it's not like a normal?
No, it's
They
not
value
normal.
like one thing and that's it. He valued his mom. Didn't care about anything else.
And I'm gonna show you more pictures that are gonna be like.
Who knows? Maybe it's because his dad or his siblings. I don't know if he had a dad or sibling.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously he had a dad, but they didn't treat him right.
Yep.
It always goes back to
It
something
was just
like
his
that.
mom that treated him good. Who
Yep.
knows?
Here is a body hanging up in his garage after they searched the place, after they found, there's a whole story behind it. We're not really here to talk about the whole story, but that's actually like a human mask, human head that he cut off, and he was going to use it to make another
That's
mask. Here's one that was in, I don't know where they found this, but this is actually like, so when we talk about like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre mask, this is like the real life version. That's a human scalp cut off and like sewn to be his mask that he would wear. And here's a chair they found in his house, and that is human skin stretched out over the chair. Yeah, it's horrible stuff. It's really it's gruesome. Like I said,
you can't make this stuff.
You can't make this stuff up. And people wonder, what are these people on that are making the movies? Well, they're not on anything. They're just looking into horrible people in history, and they know that'll make a good movie because we talk about it, we get disgusted. Of course, it's gonna make a good movie. You know.
Make a movie?
Yeah.
I think you got to be a little sick to make a movie like that, though.
Yeah.
Dude, the people, this is a whole nother story, but the people that made Texas Chainsaw Massacre back in 1974, it was like a low budget movie. They used like real cow blood for like the blood in the movie because it was so low budget. And the people there barely made any money. And it was all like people that weren't really actors. Like, it's a really interesting story to look into the making of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Super low budget.
We'll have to do that.
Creepy how they made it. And then it turned into become one of the most high grossing horror franchises of all time. A couple more quick ones here though. I have two more. Friday the 13th. This one's a really quick one because, so the movie came out in 1980. Everybody knows Friday the 13th. Another one of the top horror franchises makes millions of dollars. They've done like 30 different movies, reboots, sequels, prequels, everything.
Jason versus Freddy.
Yep. And this is another one where the filmmakers do not claim that it's based on any true story. But 2 decades before the movie came out, movie comes out in 1980. 2 decades earlier, in 1960, something happens at a summer camp in Finland that is very strange. Here we have the 4 people that were killed, or I guess 3 of them were killed. 4 people, though, and it's on Lake Bodom, B-O-D-O-M, between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. in 1960, in the summer of 1960. A maniac with a knife brutally murdered 3 of these people. I'm not sure which ones were killed and which ones weren't. The 4th got away with a fractured jaw and a concussion. And this is at a summer camp. A maintenance man was questioned, and a KGB spy who showed up to the hospital covered in red stains was also questioned, but apparently didn't do it. And then in 2004, the last person, whichever one of these survived, was actually arrested for doing the crime, but then was let go because they proved that he would be unable to do that with a broken or whatever jaw and a concussion. So,
and he's the same age as them, right?
Apparently, I don't know. This guy looks quite a bit older than the other 3. It kind of looks like an older guy, but apparently they're all teenagers. And so the murder is unsolved right now. There's no, and this happened in 1960, so we kind of got a Zodiac.
Looks like Haken right there on the far right.
We kind of got like a Zodiac situation. Unsolved. We don't know what happened. But it kind of sounds like the Friday the 13th thing a little bit. Although the Friday the 13th kind of goes off the Jason Voorhees drowned and then comes back to kill.
These guys just get like a general idea.
Yeah.
And then they turn it into a whole.
You get the basic idea from a real life thing and then you take it and run with it.
And it's weird how like a paranormal movie, if they're gonna relate it to like a real scene, not like a horror movie that's like scripted like that. Not so much where it's like about a person actually killing.
Yep.
How come like this isn't like based on a true story when they like finish the credits?
You kind of want it to be.
Yeah.
Whenever
absolutely.
to me, movies that are based on real life stories are almost like they almost hit home more than something that was just made up.
Oh,
sounds
for sure.
way more scary.
Yeah, to me, I'm paranormal things don't really scare me very much, like ghosts and stuff. But if it's like a movie like Friday the 13th, or where you're a realistic situation, Halloween, where you have a guy that's just psycho going around killing people, that to me is way scarier than a demon or a ghost running around, making creepy noises and disappearing here and there. That's not very scary to me because it's not relatable at all. There's no relation that you don't feel that. And maybe that's why a lot of these hit home, because they take place in like small towns, and a ghost type thing is just from the beginning, from the get-go, it's not believable at all. So it just doesn't hit home for us. The last one I have, Scream, classic movie, 1996, the ghost face here, which is now one of the most famous and sold Halloween costumes of all time. Ghostface here, and I think that's the name of it, Ghostface. And this was based on, and this is one of the ones that actually the filmmaker, the writer, came out and said he got the inspiration from a real life thing. The Gainesville, Florida Ripper. Between 1989 and 1990, Danny Rolling killed 8 students at the University of Florida and a couple other schools, and he mutilated their bodies and all this. And that is what inspired, here he is right here, Danny Rolling, who's actually killed.
What year was this?
The movie came out in 1996. The killings happened between 1989 and 1990.
That looks like a recent mugshot.
Yeah,
he was alive until 2006, and he was executed by lethal injection. So he was, because he was from Florida.
You can do that in Florida.
Florida, you can do that. Here's an older picture, though. This maybe was more what you're looking for, Colin, when he was younger. These guys, they don't look like...
He's got that saggy face, though, kind of like Scream.
Yeah. And I don't... Obviously, that's a mask, but Scream...
No, I know, but maybe they...
His eyes kind of go... His eyes, if you look at his eyes, pull up the picture again, they slant down is the same as the mask.
Kind of like the mask a little bit. Oh, I could kind of see that.
Yeah, they come straight down.
Mm-hmm. And we might think that there's not that much thought into it, but you can guarantee that the filmmakers, the people writing this stuff, draw the inspiration from all the real life events and try to pull as much realistic stuff into that, for the movie.
They start sleeping at night and it pops up as an idea, and then it becomes real.
Exactly.
Shower ideas.
Yeah.
Shower
ideas.
thoughts. The writer, though, of Scream said he saw a TV special on the killer, Danny Rolling, and that inspired him to write Scream, which then he sold and became one of the top horror movie franchises. I think they made a TV show. I think they made multiple movies.
Yeah.
It seems like all these horror movies, that's what they do. They make one, they make another one, they make another one.
Like
Hey, it's all about money.
It is. It's about making as much money. And when you have a horror movie franchise and the first one did well, they're probably all going to do well because you have the familiarity of it. People go back.
You got the fan base.
You got the fan base. So those are the horror movie serial killers. What was your guys' favorite one out of the bunch? Mine was got to be Jeepers Creepers because I love that movie, and that one just seemed to me like the craziest thing that it was actually that happened in real life. I wonder if that school is still there. That abandoned school?
We can go explore it.
We got to find the school. If anyone knows where the school is, we got to find that thing.
I doubt it.
I don't know. You never know because they shot that, the Unsolved Mysteries, they shot that on location where it actually happened. Yeah, that was on location. So that was a real place where a dead body was dumped. So maybe we got to go out there and find that.
Do you think that people going back were scared or got the same vibes when they were doing the shooting of Unsolved Mystery?
Oh yeah, I think because the couple actually acted in that. Really? That was the couple. I think that was the couple acting in it.
Yeah, no,
seemed like it was.
It sounded like that because they did the story and everything.
They did the interviews and then they did the story. Yeah,
and it was the same people.
It looked like the same people. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. And obviously it was just one of those things where they did the right thing. They got the guy arrested by following after him or whatever. and the police found them eventually. But it's crazy how some of these are so real to real life, but then the real life version, like I've mentioned many times before, the real life version is almost more messed up than the movie version. You know, that's the craziest part. There are things happening in real life that we don't even know about that are so messed up.
I'm scared to go to bed tonight.
Isn't that the craziest thing though? You hear about we watch the houses that October built, which is about this group of filmmakers that go all over the country. They're trying to find, not all over the country, they go all over Texas. Colin corrected me the last time.
Texas and Louisiana.
And they're trying to find the scariest haunted house. And they find one that is so real that they get pretty much killed. We don't know what happens at the end because it's so messed up.
We gotta watch too.
But then you read about these real articles where people find like dead bodies in haunted houses, or I was just reading an article the other day. It was there were these coffins that they were using in this haunted house, and they had never opened them. They got donated to the haunted house. They opened them for the first time, and inside was human remains. And these have been used in this haunted house for years. They never knew that they actually had real human bodies in their haunted house. Jamin's like, what?
Jamin's like, I'm never going to another haunted house again.
Who can I trust now?
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to be like, this is just crazy stuff happening in the real world. And we think that movies are bad. People don't realize what dangerous stuff is out there. Or like the sex offenders that they find working at haunted houses, touching people, touching kids. Oh, all the time. All the time. Illinois, Ohio, Wisconsin. They found people dressed up in costumes working at haunted houses that a lot of these haunted houses, they don't do background checks. So you have a pedophile that wants to work and be close to kids. You're going to work at a haunted house and you could touch them. And there have been people that have been arrested for, doing horrible things in haunted houses. And
that needs to be on the background check.
Hey, who's running a haunted house without doing background checks?
Yeah, no.
And I get that a lot of
volunteer work.
It is, yeah. And a lot of them don't have money, and you have to a lot of the times pay for background checks. But after you hear about horrible people coming in working at these haunted houses,
all these sick stories.
Yeah. And there was one more that I want to bring up. I think it was down in Tennessee, and I don't remember the exact story. I think I've talked about it before, but there was someone had died in a haunted house, had a heart attack or something happened. They slipped and fell or hung themselves. I think that's what it was. They hung themselves.
You're putting everything. They fell asleep, had a heart attack. Yeah, they hung themselves.
I'm on level one. Well, there was two stories. One of them was an actor, and one of them was a person going through it. One of the actor, somebody was doing like a fake hanging, like they were supposed to look like they were hanging, but the thing slipped, and so they actually hung themselves. Everyone walked by them throughout that entire night thinking it was part of it, and it was like, wow, that's real or whatever. That person was actually dead.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they actually found like that after. The other one was somebody died in a haunted house, a person going through it.
Then their body lasts for
and it lasted for a long time. People thought it was part of the haunted house. Someone died, and they're like, okay, that's just a prop, or that's just someone acting. But it was actually somebody that was dead. Somebody died, and they were in the haunted house. Yeah. Does that make... I mean, I love haunted houses, but you go to some of these small towns, and they're doing haunted houses, especially if you're in, like, the deep south or whatever. You have no idea what you're going to run into.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Let's go to a haunted house, Jamin.
Let's go to Dan Kohler's haunted house. His whole family does one in...
oh, really?
The Redwood Falls.
Redwood Falls?
Redwood Falls,
Can we plug that? Do you know the name of it? Kohler Family Haunted Mansion.
Hey, have you ever been to it?
That does it.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Was there last year with him.
Was it good?
It was really good.
They do it in
honestly really good.
They do it in their house?
No, they literally rent out a complex and they just do the whole building, and it's like honestly like a.
Do you have to pay to go?
It's like $5 or $10. It's pretty
I would
cheap.
pay. I'd pay a lot.
It's literally like a 15-minute walk. It's a good walk, and like
really,
it gets you on your chills.
When do they do it?
Like I've done the definitely right about now.
It's like every weekend
this year though, probably with COVID.
I don't know.
Call Dan. Call Dan.
We gotta get Dan. I know that there are a lot of haunted houses that aren't going through this year because of COVID, but there are some still. Because we wanted to do. I talked to Colin. We wanted to do something where we went around and like ranked them like best haunted house in Minnesota. But then we figured out Garden City was canceling, Wyndham was canceling, up in the cities, some of the bigger ones. I don't think they're doing Trail of Terror. Like we need them all to be open for us to do a real
I've
rank.
been on Trail of Terror,
Yep.
and I'm telling you, Dan's Haunted Mansion or whatever was way better.
We only went through Trail of Terror when we were kids, so I don't even know what I would think.
It's gotten a lot worse. It used to be a lot better.
Really?
Or well, maybe that's because I used to be a lot more scared. But
You were crying out of them when we were a kid.
yeah, dude, I saw the little Chucky doll on the tricycle, and I'm out.
Next year, though, we'll go around, find the best haunted house. That'll be part of the podcast.
2021.
2021. It's been a great night here tonight on the Ethan Clare Show with Jamin, talking about killers. We had some gruesome things on here, but it was fun in the end. I think a lot of people, when they watch these movies, don't realize that there's truth to them and that they're inspired by real things. And like we said, some of these real things can almost be worse than the movie you're watching. You just got to do your research. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in tonight. It's been a great time. Thank you, Jamin, for coming back on. Been a great time. Hope you had a fun time hearing about this stuff. And Colin, thanks for producing it.
Oh, yeah.
He's putting the mask back on. We will be back next week. Ethan Clare Podcast Show. Make sure you are leaving us a review if you want to win the T-Win speaker giveaway. Woo-hoo! We're giving away a nice T-Win speaker. You're not going to want to miss this opportunity. We will be back next week. This is the Ethan Clare Podcast Show.
Really?
Agreed. And then,
yeah, I remember.
It's not even the shape.
Mentally ill.
Did a special effects agency.